Hi, y'all. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. Now, I know a lot of you have been requesting a crossover service flyer, and I'm so excited that I was able to put one together. So, guys, let's jump right into this tutorial. So, the first thing we're going to do is that we want to go ahead and set our canvas size. So, we're going to go to File, click on New, and we want to go ahead and go to the preset detail. You want to change your dimensions to inches, and you want to keep your width and height to 10 inches each. And for your resolution, guys, we're going to do 300. And I always like that because it gives you the highest quality in case you need to print it on a bigger sheet. You don't lose any pixel, it's not pixelated and all of that. So I'm going to go to my folder. So guys, to follow along, check in the description below. You will see a link to all of this file. Download and follow along. So I'm going to pull this image in and I'm just going to set it right there. And I'm going to go ahead to scale it like so. And I'm going to move it halfway like that. I'm going to double click to accept it. Now we want to go ahead and add a hue saturation to this image. So I'm going to go to my adjustment and then you want to click on hue saturation. Now we want to go up to our property and we want to take our hue to -16 and we want to take our saturation to 35 and then our lightness, we want to take it to, let's say, -21. And guys, that's all preference. So however you want to set it. So we have something like this to begin with. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is go back into my folder and I want to go ahead and drag this abstract image in. I'm going to set it right there at the top like so. And I'm going to go ahead and scale it just a little, double click. Now we want to reduce the opacity of this. So I'm going to go up here and reduce the opacity to about 53. And I'm going to pick my brush tool and I'm going to click on my image. It will ask me, do you want to convert this smart object into a raster? I'm going to say yes. Now I have my brush. Now, guys, if you don't see your brush head, it means that your cap locks is on. You're right. You guys are getting it. I'm so glad. So if your cap locks is on, turn it off. That way you can see your eraser head and you can go ahead to erase so that we get the two images blending in. Now, the other thing is if you want to increase your brush head or decrease it, you can go up here and do that. And guys, you want to always make sure your hardness is at 0 and not 100 when you want to brush and blend in two images. Now, if you want to reduce it using your keyboard, you want to use your left and right bracket. Your left bracket will make it smaller. Your right bracket will make your brush head a little bit bigger. So now that we have these two all matched and it looks good, we want to go ahead and bring in the third image. So we're going to go back to our folder and we are going to go ahead and drag this image in. Now we're going to set this image somewhere here like so. I'm going to double click to accept. Now we want to take down the opacity. We want to make it into about a 22, there about 24. And we want to take our fill also down to about a 60. We want to be able to see the image, but not too much of it. Now you want to pick back up your eraser tool, click on that image, and you want to say, okay, now we can go ahead and brush around it to blend this image in as well. So now we have 3 images that we have used to set our background. Now we have one more image that we are going to apply in the background. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and add a color lookup. So I'm going to go back to my adjustment and we want to choose a color lookup. Now, once you choose the color lookup, go to your property and you want to change the option that has been given to you to crisp warm look. Now it gives us this effect and we like where it's going so far, and this way your image in the background is not so visible. Now we want to go ahead and bring in our subject image. I'm going to go to my folder. I'm going to drag my subject image in. I'm going to double click to accept. Now, if you want to enrich your subject a little bit more, you can use the camera raw effect, or a much simpler way is to go to your image, adjustment, brightness and contrast, and you can bump up your saturation a little to bring up the richness. He's already bright, so we don't need to do that. But you can see the contrast really brings some richness to your image. We want to go ahead and click OK. Now we want to take off the background. You can do it two ways. You can either go up under your property and take it off quickly. That is if you have the Photoshop 2020 or 21 version, you can do that. But if you don't, you can use your quick select tool. So go under tools, choose your quick select tool, then click on select subject. Now Photoshop will cut out the subject for you and you can go ahead and add a layer mask. Now it takes it off for you. You can do the same thing by going up to your property. Now if your image has not been converted yet into a layer, you need to click on convert to layer. Once you do that, now you can go back up into your property and click on remove background. Now I've done this so many times that I just wanted to go back to the old way of doing it for the benefit of those that have not used Photoshop or don't have Photoshop 2020 and 2021. You can thank me later. Okay, so we want to go ahead and we are going to use our eraser tool. We don't need the bottom portion of our subject. So we're going to click on our image to rasterize it. Now we can go ahead and brush off just a little like that for now. And we are going to make a duplicate of this layer. So you want to hold down Command J to make a duplicate. Now we're going to move this somewhere here and we're going to zoom out by holding down our options on the Mac, and I'm going to increase it like that to scale it. Now I want to convert this into a black and white and set it on the back of the main subject. So I'm going to bring the larger image to the background and I want to convert this into a black and white. So I'm going to click on my adjustment and I'm going to choose a black and white. Now this black and white applies to the entire, all the layers below the adjustment layer, which is the black and white. Now if you want this effect to only be applied to one layer, you need to hold down your options. Your mouse activates into a down arrow. You want to click in between the two layers and it will only apply it to the layer right beneath your adjustment layer. Now we can move this image and set this image here. We can go ahead and reduce the opacity, take it all the way down because we really don't want to see it that much. We just want almost like a shadow effect in the background, like so. And I'm going to move him down a little. So if you want to erase the bottom, you want to go ahead and click on that image and you want to make sure that you erase this portion. So guys, our background is all set for us. We're going to click back on our main image and we're going to brush and get rid of more of that, leaving only his top portion or his torso. So what I'm going to do now is I want to bring in my text. So I'm going to click on my text tool, and guys, you can see that in my foreground and background, I have a white, not the black and white, which is the default, because I've chosen a specific color that I want to use, and I just wanted to make sure I had it already in place. I'm going to select my type tool, and I'm going to go ahead and type in cross, and I'm just going to type in the double S, and I'm going to rescale this font, set it right there, and I'm going to double click and change this font. We're going to go with Bada Boom BB, and Bada Boom, Bam Bam Boom. So we're going to click and space it out, and we're going to set it right there like so. I'm going to double click in case you want the font size is almost 240 or 230. You can scale it down to whatever you want. So I'm going to set this right there. And what I'm going to do next is that I want to add a little the crossover. So I'm going to make a duplicate, Command J, make a duplicate, bring that down, double click and overwrite that. So because cross and over has an O, I'm going to set these two right here, and I'm going to type in a bigger O. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this again, Command J, set it right here, and change this to an O. Now we want to rescale this. So I'm going to scale it like that, and I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to scale it down a little bit more and set that right there, like so. Going to scale it just a little bit more so it fits right there. So I want to select all three. So you can either select it holding down your shift, or you can go into your layers panel. You have all three. So you select the first layer, hold down shift and select all three. Now we can scale it down a little if we want, or you can still keep it that big. So I'm just going to scale it a little bit because I want it to fill up. Okay, so now that we have this, we want to go ahead and add some effects. So I'm going to click first of all on a cross, double click on the corner side of that layer. Your layers panel will come up. Now we just want to add a drop shadow. Now obviously we don't want to add a white because it will be white on white. So we want to double click on the style. You get more options on the right. Double click and change the drop shadow to a black and click OK. And we're going to click OK. We're not going to do anything else to it. This image, we want to double click, and I'm going to flip it to this color. Now, if you want to know the exact color, I'm going to double click and show you what the color is. So it's FFB400, and I'm going to click OK. So with this set for us, we want to double click in the corner for that layer, bring up the layer style. We want to add a stroke effect. Now I'm going to reduce this and just do a very tiny stroke effect. I'm going to add a bevel and a contour effect to it. So the next thing we're going to do is add some nice effect to our O. But before I do that, I'm going to rotate it just a little and reduce it, move it up. And now I'm going to click on my layer to bring up the layer style. Now we want to add a bevel and a contour effect. We want to add a color overlook, and we want to add a stroke effect. Now I'm going to click on my stroke effect to increase it a little. Now with my gradient, I'm just using a solid color, and it's 820072. So that is it. I'm going to click OK. Now we want to take down the opacity. We're going to reduce opacity to about maybe 75 or 78. Now this is good enough. So with this set, we want to go back into our folder. I want to bring in this image, and I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to rescale it like that. Double click. Now we want to take off the background. So what we're going to do is that you want to go back and change your blend mode to screen. So once you change it to screen, you can basically see that you have just a little bit of the background showing. Now you can use your eraser tool, click on the image, convert to raster image, and you can just erase around it like so. So it's not really seen that much, and even brush inside like that to get rid of the one inside as well. So we only have just the light source itself. Now I'm going to click on that image and I'm going to rotate it to align with my circle. And I'm going to set it right there like that. Now, if you click on your image and the transform tool is not activated, make sure that your auto select and your show transform are all selected. That way you can scale your image like that. And once you set it up, you don't have to go back and redo it. So with this set for us, you can go ahead and basically cut off the V and the R. So what we're going to do is we want to convert this V into a smart object. And now that allows us to pick our lasso tool. We're going to zoom in and we can basically just trim this area off, just gauging it and going around your circle. And we can use our eraser tool. You have to click OK to accept. Now we can delete that. Command D to deselect. I'm going to zoom out. So it's as though the V is being cut off. Now we're going to do the same thing for the R. So I'm going to click on this image and I'm going to click on the text, and then we're going to right click, convert to a smart object. Now, once you convert to a smart object, you can't reverse it. So you want to make sure that you're satisfied with whatever text you have before you convert. Now we're going to click on our lasso tool and we are going to do the same thing for the R. And then we're going to pick our eraser tool layer and we want to click OK to convert. Command D to deselect. If your mouse is not working so well, you can use your zoom in and out to set things in place. So now that we have this, we want to go ahead and go back to our layer, our folder, and I want to drag in the logo. So I'm going to set the logo somewhere here like that. And then I'm going to use my quick lasso tool. We're just going to cut around this logo. And we're going to right click and make a copy. Now we want to turn off the original, or you can just delete that by selecting it and clicking on delete on your keyboard, or you can drag it to the trash can. It will do the same thing. Now we want to go ahead and delete everything that is white. So the easiest way to do that is to select your quick select tool. You can actually use your magic wand, click, make sure you have that layer selected, click on your image and you realize that it selects everything around it. You can also use your quick select tool to do that, but you can just use this to just, cut out what you don't need. It's also a quick way. So now that we have everything, and I'm going to press Command D to deselect. Now we want to convert this into a black and white. So you want to go to your image adjustment, click on black and white, and you want to just click OK. Now the next thing we want to do is go to your image adjustment, hue, saturation. So you want to take the lightness to the right and it will basically take out the color. Now we can set this here, scale it down a little, and maybe position it right here. Now we want to go ahead and add the name of the church. I'm going to flip my foreground so we have white. I'm going to pick up my text tool and I'm going to type in faith. Now it's below our subject, so I'm going to move that all the way up to the top. Now, if you want all your text in caps, come under your property, under type options, choose the double T, and it will convert your text from lowercase to uppercase. Now we can move our logo down to align. Even if we want, we can reduce the opacity so our logo sort of blends in a little with our background. I'm gonna go ahead and move that up and also move this text up a little bit more. Now we wanna go ahead and add the pastor's name. I'm gonna make a duplicate of the name, Command J, make a duplicate. We wanna move that down, double click, and just type in the pastor's name. Now, what we can do is that we can highlight the name and make that bold font, and we can move everything and set that right here, like so. Now, you notice that I said cross over, but I'm missing the service. So I'm gonna pick my text tool and I'm going to go ahead and type in service. I'm going to highlight. I'm gonna choose Charles Sebastian font. Now, I only want the first alphabet in uppercase, so I'm going to turn off my cap locks and I'm going to rescale and set that somewhere here. Now, I'm going to double click and change the color to white. I'm going to click OK. Now, it's not really showing well because it's beneath my hue saturation. So I'm going to move it up in my layers panel. Now you can see it white, but we need to still move it all the way up so it falls on top of our text. And this is it. We're going to move this and set this right there. So I'm going to move this and set this here. And I'm going to move his name and set it right there. Now we want to go ahead and add the day of the event, which we all know is December 21st. So I'm going to go ahead, click on my text type tool, and I'm going to type in DEC, highlight, and we're going to change that font to all round Gothic. I'm going to scale it up a little, set that right here. I'm going to move it down and I'm going to pick my font and I'm going to type in 31st and I'm going to scale it a little, double click. We're going to change this font to Agagi Pro. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to scale this a little bit more and I'm going to make this just this portion. I'm going to select the ST and I'm going to reduce the font size to, let's say, 30, and I'm going to highlight and change the 31 color, and then I'm going to rescale. So now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to zoom in. And I'm just going to draw a thin line like so, right in front of my date. I'm going to add a new layer by clicking on my plus icon. I'm going to make sure my foreground is white, pick my paint bucket. I'm going to fill that in, Command D to deselect. I'm going to zoom out. It's just a little detail that you can add to your dates, and I chose to just do that. So with that said, we want to go ahead and bring in the social media platforms that they are on. So guys, I went ahead to bring in my logos of the social media platforms that they are on. Now, I've done this so many times that you know how to bring in those logos and those images. So you can do a search on Google and just get the logo for Facebook, as well as Twitter and YouTube, and you just bring it in as a PNG file and then you can drop it in. So now that we have this, I want to go ahead and add the rest of the information on the bottom. So I'm going to pick my type tool and I'm going to go ahead and type in the rest of the information, or if you already have it, you can just paste it in. So I'm just going to scale it down and I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to double click and make sure that this layer is not below my hue and that is above my hue, so we can see it in white and it shows very well. Now, if you want your font to read a little bit bigger, you can, or bolder, you can double click on it, go to your layer style, add a stroke effect. Now, you will have to reduce the stroke effect so you just get it enough, like 2 pixels, so that it does show but it's not too much. So the next thing we're going to do is to add a lens flare effect. So you want to first of all go to your top layer. You want to go ahead and add a solid color. Now we want to choose a black. So we're going to just pick any corner to get the most black as possible. Now go to your filter and the render. You want to choose lens flare. Now it will ask you that this layer must be rasterized, so you say yes, convert to a smart object. Now I'm going to use a movie prime and I'm going to leave my brightness at 100%. Now before we hit OK, you have the option of moving the slide anywhere you want before you click OK. So if you want to move it, if yours was here, you can just drag it and set it in the middle. That is if you want that. I'm gonna click OK. Now we wanna change the blend mode to screen. Now screen basically hides everything that is black, showing only the color or the light source. So we are going to set this in this location and we want to make a duplicate. So Command J, make another duplicate, and we're going to set that right there. Now you can choose to set yours wherever you want. Now if you don't like these lines that are showing up, you can add a layer mask and you want to make sure your foreground is black. Pick your brush tool. Now we know that when it comes to layer mask, you can hide anything using black. So as we brush over this line, you realize that it hides it. We can do the same thing here. If we want, we can do that as well. But you want to make sure that you click on the other lens flare, add a layer mask, then you can go back and erase on that layer as well. Now, if you want to keep the lines, that is also up to you, but I wanted to give you that alternative. So in case your lines are too many and you want to get rid of them, well, guys, this is the way to do it. I'm basically thinking ahead to know all the hiccups that you will have while creating your flyer, so I can basically guide you. So with this all said, we can go ahead and add a last touch up, that is if you want, but this is a very good flyer. You can go ahead and create one file, hold down your Shift Option Command E on the Mac. So with this said, you can go back to your filter, camera raw, and we can maybe decrease the temperature and we can increase the contrast if you want. You can bump up the saturation, the vibrance. We can do something like that. You can increase the temperature a little so we can still see our subject, or you can actually increase it, which changes the color a little, but note that it will affect your subject color, so you don't want to overdo it. So we have something very, very simple touch up, and you can either go with the before, which is this, or the after, which bumps up the color. Honestly, guys, this time I want to stick with the before. I like it, and I think that the colors come through very well. You don't always have to use the camera raw effect. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve. So guys, this brings us to the end of this lesson. Please don't forget to like, share, and also subscribe if you are if you're new on this channel. You know, these flyers are helping so many people, and I want others who don't know about my channel to know about it so that they too can benefit from it. So please share it on social media, tag me even if you can. And I just want to say a big thank you, and I can't wait to see what else we get to do in 2021. So guys, till then, be blessed. Bye y'all.